Tonight on CTV, ASCSU President Josh Silva is impeached from office, and we have an exclusive interview with one of the senators involved in making that decision. We recap a presentation given to students and faculty recording DACA, and all that starting right now on CTV. Hello and welcome to CTV Thursday. I'm Marlo Lundak. After 12 long weeks in 3 impeachment petitions, ASCSU President Josh Silva has officially been impeached. Senate was able to pass the vote with 2/3 majority via a secret ballot last night. Our CTV ASCSU reporter, Sunday Miller, has more on the story.
In their words, queremos que ustedes tengan las cosas que nosotros no pudimos.
Early Thursday morning, the vote to impeach ASCSU President Josh Silva passed 22-24. 130 pages of evidence were presented to the Senate members, which focused mainly on the Wall Street Journal contract.
The information that ended up forming the basis for the impeachment petition came crashing down upon me like a wave. It seemed that everyone agreed process had not been followed.
According to Silva, his intentions for the contract were to provide students free digital and print access to the publication.
Online students last year started paying charges for ASCSU services, and we're not giving them anything. And honestly, to me, that makes me feel disgusting.
However, Silva did not present his proposal to the Senate, which governs the yearly budget, before he made promises to CSU departments.
Mr. Silva had falsely assured the Wall Street Journal, the College of Business, the College of Liberal Arts, and the CSU administration that ASCSU would easily be able to pay their part.
Discussion about the impeachment committee's evidence also included accusations of harassment, saying Silva made ASCSU offices emotionally unbearable. In the evidence packet, there was information meant to be redacted, which involved ASCSU members experiencing psychological distress caused by Silva's actions. Vice President Michael Wells told Collegian reporter Haley Candelario that he plans to step up as ASCSU president. For CTV News, I'm Sunday Miller.
It was a historical night for the CSU student government because Silva was the first president to get impeached. He feels that, quote, the majority of the student body thought this was arrogant, political, petty, and stupid. Silva told the Collegian that he could choose to appeal the vote but hasn't decided yet. I'm joined now with Cheadle, an ASCSU senator who voted in the impeachment, to speak more on what happened last night and what will happen moving forward. Thank you for being here, Senator Cheadle. How are you doing tonight?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm lovely.
Of course. Can you walk us through what happened last night? I know you guys were there pretty late.
Yeah. So we got out at 12:30 last night, or this morning, actually, I should say. And so last night was interesting. The agenda was released publicly, and after a little bit of conflict with some fresh Senate ratifications, we had the gallery input, in which a lot of ASCSU alumni and directors and people affected by President Silva came out and actually spoke for the first time. After that, we had the Rise and Report, in which the Supreme Court and the impeachment committee, because they were in charge of gathering the evidence, they brought every senator a stack of this, 88 pages front and back of evidence that they've collected over the few weeks that they were in session. After that, we had 10-minute statements from each the prosecutor and the defendant, and then we went into discussion and debate. And that was the majority of the night, and it ended with the final vote in which he was removed from office. All
right. How do you feel about the outcome? What was your point of view on the impeachment?
So I was the, I believe, second signature on the initial petition impeachment. It was, regardless, a tough vote. It was emotionally ratcheting the entire night. It was difficult for everyone involved. But it comes after probably about a decade of struggles from internally ASCSU. We've had a lot of very difficult administrations in the past few years. Last year was pretty good with President Panasaraka, but the year before that, President Sidoriak, honestly, in my opinion, I wish he would have been impeached. There was a lot of really bad cultural things. There's been a lot of structural issues within ASCSU, and I believe this year, this impeachment is the first step of ASCSU reforming itself and becoming a real student government once again.
I know you mentioned culture, and culture was mentioned a lot last night. How do you think that Silva affected the office culture?
So what's interesting about that is the impeachment itself was brought to the senators from members of the executive branch. This was brought to us because it sensed responsibility to handle impeachments, right? So most of those cultural things were coming from the executive branch itself. Personally, I didn't see very much. I recognize the clear constitutional violations that he did, basically. But a lot of those people spoke out last night. A lot of directors, a lot of former directors. There's been a lot of resignations this last year, more I think than almost any of the previous administrations that we've had.
Do you think that's specifically because of Silva?
Oh yes, for certain.
How do you think the office culture is going to change now that Silva is out of office?
You know, it was mentioned last night that just removing one person isn't going to change the office culture, and that's very true. But I think this is the first step towards healing honestly, a fundamentally flawed system. Yeah, it's our first step. It's going to take several years, but I feel like this is the first time in decades that we've actually taken a step towards even healing ourselves.
Just wrapping up here, what do you think ASCSU will do if Silva decides to appeal the impeachment? If
he appeals, that will go to the Supreme Court, and the only way he can appeal is on the basis of procedural error. The reason there were 3 petitions in the first place was because the procedure was being hammered out. This was the first time we've ever had to do this specific procedure. It was a reformed procedure after a few years back. There was a senator that was impeached. It was a total disaster. But honestly with you, it was a very, very rigorous and fair process. It was designed, it was checked, double-checked, ran by general counsel. I had tons of meetings with them, running back and forth between the basement of the admin building and our office in the LSC. So I don't think anything will really come of an appeal, but we'll see. It's up to the court.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll be right back with news in a minute.